board members have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of August 16th.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Chair votes yes. Therefore, those minutes for August 16th have been approved. We have a couple of matters on this evening for new business. The first matter is a preliminary subdivision application at 61 Bishop Street, also known as Berkeley Ave Extension. The Lowell Planning Board will review a preliminary subdivision plan by SCAF Enterprise to extend Berkeley Ave from its current dead end at Bishop Street. The proposed extension will provide an additional 3 residential lots, each with 7,000 square feet on land and features single-family dwellings. The project is located in the traditional mixed-use zoning district and will require definitive subdivision approval. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, George Theolides, Jr., 133 Market Street, Lowell, and I'm here this evening in behalf of Mr. Scaff, and I have with me Mr. Scaff, whom I think you're familiar with, and Mr. Garlick, Ed, the engineer, right here as well. Mr. Close, who also did some work on this, some engineering work, wasn't able to join us tonight, but he did give me a written report, which I can make available to the board. I think, if you don't mind, I'll have Mr. Scaff bring it up, Mr. Chairman, and also some photos that I wanted to have you have in front of you. Hopefully, I'm not sure if each of the members has had an opportunity to see the lot in question. I assume you do, because I know you always go out and do that stuff diligently. This is a great area, I think, because of the fact that it is what it is, which is basically currently a dead-end street, and what we're talking about doing is just finishing it off up to the Paper Street, Commercial Street, I think is the name of it, which is essentially the railroad tracks that cut across through that section, go across Boylston Street and into the city. There's really nothing else there. If you were driving out there and on the left-hand side, there's a big parcel of city-owned land, which is principally wetland. It's all basically, shall we say, wooded area at this point now. And the plan calls for a 3-lot subdivision, those houses being built on the right-hand side. You've been out there and you've seen it. You're familiar with the width of Berkeley currently. It's a very small street. It doesn't have many houses on it. It's not heavily trafficked by any stretch of the imagination. And I think in part, and one of the things we want to discuss tonight is that I received a report that Mr. Clausen was nice enough to share with us from the City Engineers Department and from the administration, the DPD, about this property. And obviously, I think one of the excellent recommendations they've made is that we find a way to, shall we say, narrow the street, because it's not going to be used for anything other than 3 houses, and then get some trees in there, which I think will help to just bring it part of the character of that neighborhood, which is really, as I said, just a lovely, almost suburban setting in a sense, because it's such a nice wooded area. Obviously, to the extent we can, we're going to save as many of the trees we can on the 3 lots that we're going to develop and build on. And part of the, we're providing for new stormwater runoff. We're providing for, we'd like to ask for a waiver with reference to a sidewalk. It isn't that we don't want to produce a sidewalk, but realistically, there's no sidewalk on Berkeley Avenue. There's no sidewalk on Bishop, which it runs perpendicular to it. So, I mean, if we were fortunate enough to have 3 houses that had some children in it, it's not like they're going to be dodging traffic or need a sidewalk to take them further down the street, because there is none there anyway. What we would also like to do is ask the board to consider a waiver as far as the granite curb that's being asked for and that currently is called for in a situation like this, and go with a berm. Bishop Street has a berm Berkeley has no, other way around, I'm sorry. But thank you. Berkeley has the berm, Bishop has nothing. What we are providing for is a stormwater runoff along the street that will pick up a lot of whatever water is going there and take care of that. So I think the best thing is for me at this point to just sort of back off and tell you that I have, as I said, Mr. Golick here with me as well as George, and would be glad to answer any questions that the planning board members have. And we'd love your opinion, obviously, because we want to get to work on doing a final plan to submit to you.
Does anybody else want to speak on behalf of the applicant, counsel, at this time?
You want to add
Well, if they have any questions,
I'm sorry?
He just said if there are any questions, it's basically what he's hoping that he can answer for, Mr.
Well,
Chairman.
we did receive a letter here from Mr. Close, and he said, mentioned something about the associate planner. Did you have comments on this, Aaron? Did you share with them, or was it somebody from our staff that had comments with Mr. Close?
The only comments are the ones that had forwarded to the board in the memo. There's nothing else other than those. That's the ones dated September 17th.
I think, Mr. Chairman, while everyone's trying to get a chance to catch up to the close letter, et cetera, the one thing that is kind of a common thread that runs through this is the issue of, shall we say, the water runoff at the end of the street there. Two things I want to talk about. One is that water runoff. First of all, that's a paper street in the back there, and as such, anyone who abuts it is an owner halfway into to the center of the paper street. It's a street that's never, ever, ever, in my lifetime, your lifetime, anybody's lifetime, going to be developed. It's right adjacent to the railroad tracks. There's no reason for it ever to become a street of any usage there. But even so, we're picking up stormwater as it runs off of that particular area there. We're not creating any greater runoff other than normal runoff. We're just trying to make sure that as it filters down, it's going to filter down and filter off into that area at the end of the street where the paper street is. I think it's fair to say, based on what the engineering says and what we've seen in our plans, that shouldn't be a problem, and certainly shouldn't affect anybody in the neighborhood by the runoff, whatever that stormwater, the normal runoff might be. The last thing, I guess, while we're all thinking about it, is what we talked about after we received the report from Aaron and some of the recommendations is perhaps rather than going with a cul-de-sac at the end, and we'd like you to think about this one, is that we just do, what do you call it? Hammerhead at the end of the road that would, for fire truck purposes, and obviously I know on the one hand that we still need to get their approval to make sure they're comfortable with what's there, but it just seems to me, rather than dealing with a cul-de-sac that probably will be of little value to anybody except somebody who gets lost going up the street, as long as there's a sufficient area built up with a hammerhead that the fire department can get a truck in and move around, it would seem to me that would probably be appropriate and workable.
Is there developable land beyond the current turnaround that you have illustrated?
I didn't hear you, Mr. Lockhart, I'm sorry.
Is there land beyond the cul-de-sac that you have on this drawing? Is there land beyond that can be developed at a future date?
Not if you're talking about the end of the street and the cul-de-sac, because it's right into the paper street there, basically, and then the railroad.
Are there wetlands near there?
Well, I think on the opposite side of where we're developing, it's a big parcel that's owned by the city that ultimately goes up to Phoenix Avenue. And there's a lot of off and on wetland in that area. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Right. And just one other thing, is there an issue with the road width, Aaron, here? It seems to me I remember seeing something.
No, in my comments, I think the road width is 24 feet in the preliminary plan.
Proposed at 28,
Oh, excuse me, proposed 28. So the comments that I made to reduce some of the runoff, and because it's a short street serving only 3 homes, that this may be a case where reducing the street width would be warranted. It's type A in the subdivision regulations, was the cross-section that I was recommending, which is it's a narrowed street, includes a sidewalk and trees. I know they're requesting the waiver, but at least it narrows the width of the pavement, and that could reduce a fair amount of the runoff at least, and there's plenty of room.
Is that a doable thing?
I missed that.
Is that a doable thing?
Oh, I think so, absolutely. I think it's a good idea. We were pleased that suggestion was made.
Any board members have, Mr. Gentleman, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it sounds like a reasonable proposal. Certainly, everything you said is true. It's a quiet end of the street. Adding additional homes there isn't going to create more traffic or anything like that. The only way it could be better if it were 2 lots rather than 3, in my opinion. And the question I had was about the zoning there. And Aaron, it seems kind of odd to me that most of Berkeley Ave, or part of Berkeley Ave anyway, is zoned suburban single-family, if I'm reading the map correct. But then the tail end of it, the traditional single-family kind of juts out there. Is there any rationale for, am I correct, first of all, and is there any rationale for that?
I didn't look at it that closely. I'm pretty sure the area is mostly traditional single-family. I could pull out the map if necessary, but I'm pretty sure that area is mostly traditional single-family.
If I look at it, it looks like Berkeley Ave from Rogers Street down to Berwick is suburban single-family, in which case the minimum lot size would be 10,000 square feet. And then from Berwick on, it looks like there's a kind of a wedge of traditional single-family that takes the rest of the street, which seems kind of strange to me.
What they would, the districts were basically modeled on what was existing there. So this is kind of speculation on my part, so take it for what it is. But north of Berwick towards Rogers Street may have been characterized by larger lot properties that would be more mirrored in the suburban single family, whereas you moved further south on Berkeley, and then also the parallel roads towards Boylston would have, in that case, more likely to have smaller lots, whereas that would match the traditional single-family zoning district. So that's probably why down there, further south, it was zoned in that fashion to match what the kind of typology that was there already.
Yeah,
My guess, Mr. Gentleman, and it would only be a guess, is that it's just such a different kind of an area, and it has in the old days, when I used to play around Shed Park.
When you were a young boy.
Yeah, when I was a young boy, there wasn't much there at all.
Did they have cars back then?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, they did. And I think it's just a case of when the city got rezoned and we broke it down into these little subdivisions and whatever. I have no idea why they made that distinction, but it just seems to me that somebody decided that they were going to draw a line.
Yeah.
Simple as
it
that.
Seems a little odd, but nonetheless, the zoning is the zoning. Not much we can do about that right now. And it is allows a 7,000 square foot.
While you're mentioning my age, Mr. Gendron, I want you to know that the
Just
Lowell,
joking with you.
that the Lowell
It is-
High School class of
Yeah,
1960
Counselor.
is having our 50th reunion in a couple of weeks, and I'll be there. I know that's hard for everybody to believe.
You look much
50
younger than
years
that.
out of high school, but
So given that, then the 7,000 square foot lot is appropriate, and I think that if it's done well, it can still be, and would fit with the
It's
rest of the
such a
houses in
wooded
the area.
area and so otherwise protected that I don't think it's going to show as anything other than a nice, single-family lot.
I will say that I don't like the idea of the waivers on the sidewalks and the curbing. Even though the rest of the street has a berm, I think that, the sidewalks and the curbing look so much better when it's done, that, and at some point, maybe, if we continue giving waivers on these things, then, we'll never have another sidewalk in the city. So I would like to see us maintain that, and maybe at some point, we could continue the sidewalk up Berkeley. So,
Never going to happen.
well, it might not.
I
but
agree with you. I
It
think
might
it'd be-
not, but,
I think it'd be great, but
I
don't see it happening.
the stance I've kind of taken on these things is I would prefer to see even in cases where the rest of the street is a berm, I'd like to see the sidewalk and the curbing go in, because it does look much better.
I guess my response would be that I would suggest to Mr. Scaff, when we go back and look at re-engineering the width of the street and putting in the trees in a little bermed area to pick up runoff and whatever, that we consider looking at that particular issue as well. Even though, again, as I say, I mean, it just seems to me there's no great, it's almost a detriment. You put your kid on a sidewalk for 50 feet, 100 feet, and then they're back out onto the street, so.
Yeah, but maybe someday it'll continue down.
I hear you.
Mr. Fischett, Mr. Denman, you finished? Anything further? No? Jerry, any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have very much. Obviously, be waiting for the comments from the engineering department and also fire department regarding the cul-de-sac versus the hammerhead. I think visually the cul-de-sac looks a little nicer than the hammerhead, but I think that would complete the look, where the hammerhead has a tendency to look like it's somebody's driveway at the end of the street. So, I think, again, in the same vein as my colleague, Mr. Gendron, if in fact we really want to have that nice finished look, and we're looking at sidewalk and we're looking at the trees, the cul-de-sac will give that the look that, of a completed road with a cul-de-sac, not an afterthought of an extension stuck on the road. So I think that would be something to consider.
But do you object to the berm aspect as opposed to the granite if we go with a sidewalk? Is that something you can look
Yeah,
at?
I have mixed feelings about that. I was actually surprised when I pulled down there and it was the berms that you were looking all the way down the street. So at first, I have to say, visually, I was thinking, well, it would be consistent if we kept the berms. But I understand from Mr. Gendron's standpoint, and especially this being a cul-de-sac, the berms take a beating in the wintertime from the plows, and before you know it, they deteriorate pretty quickly. It's a cheap way out, is what it is. It really is. If you could really, as you're crunching the numbers to try to work out, obviously, what works here, again, there's some merit to what Mr. Gendron was saying, and I certainly would love to see you come back with something that would include that.
Understood.
The only thing I would add to that is, I agree as well, especially with the vertical granite. I think the vertical granite, it does hold the water back. I'm not sure without looking quickly, what all the slopes is there. I know you have to go before conservation for wetland, but the vertical granite definitely adds to curb appeal. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I know our city engineer requests it all the time. I know our planning development requests it all the time. It's been a while since we really waived the granite curbing. If you're gonna do the cul-de-sac at the end, that does open up a little more room. If there's, you'll end up usually seeing a cul-de-sac, young children out there on bicycles or something going around. So I'm not as concerned as much with the sidewalk. I mean, I'd like to see the sidewalk, as they say, but if no one else is gonna have it all down Berkeley. But usually we do at least one sidewalk on one side. But if we were gonna consider maybe waiving the sidewalk, then I'd really try to go forward with the vertical granite. Because I think then you'd have more open space down the bottom if you stay with the cul-de-sac. But I know our city engineer, like I say, recommends the vertical granite all the time for the work the city does on it. The plan department mentions it to us all the time, and it's been a while since we waived it, to be honest with you. So those are just some of the comments that I have. I mean, obviously, it is a nice street, it is a nice neighborhood. I mean, that goes all the way down, as you said, you know, till you come to that railroad bridge there, which is named after Mr. Grady, our city engineer, who was big on vertical granite. So I remember Mr. Grady worked with us, so he was always big on it, to emphasize how it's much easier for the city plows to get their job done with that, because the berms do get knocked off, and what happens is, the city doesn't fix them, and as a result, water slopes onto the property. I mean, it just makes it more difficult for them, and I think the houses look a lot nicer and neater with the vertical granite, so that's just one of my comments I have. But besides that, I think it's as you said, it's a beautiful neighborhood, it's a nice extension down there, especially if it's not gonna go any further, so the concerns with the sidewalk, I'm not as strong as I am with the vertical granite.
If you go any further, you run into a real problem with a
Well-
railroad train.
Well, I hear you on that, because you can hear those whistles at night. I mean, there's usually one every night at 12, you know, so. But besides that, I think the project looks nice.
Great.
Any other further comments? No?
We're going to go back and rework based on our conversations now, and I'm going to recommend to Mr. Scaff that we look seriously at what Mr. Gendron has indicated, and Mr. Frisch, I think you all agree, so.
I actually had one more comment. We brought up the train. Are you planning any kind of, any fence or anything like that to try to dissipate the noise from the train? Because you do get the noise late at night.
This is Mr. Scaff for the record.
Good evening. George Scaff, 503 Fletcher Street. There's usually some sort of a fence that's a little heavier gauge that it's for sound. And we still haven't looked into it too far, but that's what we're planning to. And then the shrubs, there's those, I forget the name of them, the evergreen trees that'll block a lot of it as well. But I don't think it was indicated on the plan anywhere, though. But we'd be happy to look at something like that.
I think it's a good idea. I
Oh,
mean,
yes, of
other
course.
neighbors on that street have told me that they hear the train.
Oh, yeah.
So these folks are definitely gonna hear the train.
Yeah, exactly.
So anything you can do to try to dissipate the noise, I think would be a good idea.
Yes, yes.
Cool.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Good
We
luck. Thank you very
appreciate
much.
your comments, and we're going to look anxious to come back and get it all straightened out with you and get moving.
Thank you very much. Wish you well.
Good evening. Take care.
You can have your photos if you need.
You want to keep it?
Thank you. Moving along, our next matter on the agenda is a bond release for 104 West Meadow Road, which is Rita Street Extension. The board will review requests from the builder of the subdivision located at the above address for partial release of the bond funds held for performance of construction to the City of Lowell subdivision standards. Aaron, do we have anybody here from the applicant, or just what was submitted to us? I know you submitted some paperwork to us from the city as well, regards to the bond.
Yeah, I don't see it. Dan Chasey, who's the developer, had sent a letter requesting the reduction. I haven't seen him, but I think his original letter was requesting that everything be reduced except for some of the legal funds. I think it was $1,600. But I handed out a worksheet for tonight.
Right,
He's
saw
been
that.
working with the city engineer, and basically he's taking care of the issue with the legal title, the legal description for the parcels. So they're all set, they being the city engineer is all set with that. The only thing that remains outstanding in terms of finishing everything up is the as-built plan. And so the city engineers requested that and the contingency be withheld.
So when he's given that, I see as is he talking about the $6,500 that we,
Correct, yeah, that would cover the as-built plan.
okay, because I think we have the as-built there, and then we see a remaining balance after they throw in the contingency of another $1,300. And then he gives us a $7,800 balance. So would he be requesting a 78 be held, or just a 65?
The 78.
Oh, okay. Any board members have any questions in regards to the partial release?
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, because I'm looking at what we had prior, and then I'm looking at this here. How much are we authorizing the release? I see what the holdback is.
Sure, sure. So the original bond was 21,000.
Yep.
And so what the developers had requested was that everything except for the legal description, which is a $1,300
Okay.
price, be reduced, so that, but discussions with the city engineers, they're still working on the as-built plans. There's some details in those plans that need to be shored up. But since that time, since the initial request from the developer to have those funds reduced, the legal description's been finalized and it's been okayed by the city engineer. So basically, what the city engineer's requesting is that $7,800 remain in the bond, which would be a reduction of $13,200 from the original.
Okay, all right, so we're starting out with the 21,000, okay.
Yep.
All right, okay, that's fine.
He references 19,700 in his letter.
Right, that would have been everything except for the legal description. That would have left 1,300 in that, yeah.
1,300. Yeah, okay.
That's fine. Mr. Chairman, with that, I make a motion that we release 13,200 and hold back the 7,800, which was recommended by the engineering department.
Second that?
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Moving along, we do have our annual meeting of election of officers. We can either proceed with those tonight or wait until our next meeting when we have a full board, whatever, which of the body is.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Doesn't matter.
I think we should take advantage of Mr. Claremont while he's away and, point him to
Sign
everything.
off for-
So whatever you gentlemen like to do, it's fine with me either way.
I think we can move forward. It's okay with me if we move forward.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, with no objection. Okay, tonight we're going to hit our annual meeting. We have the election of the officers. We have, elections will be for positions, which would be chairperson, vice chairperson, second chairperson, representative from NEMCOG committee, the historic board, and representative to our Green Building Commission. So we'll take them one at a time, and the first to elect our chairperson.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate for re-election Thomas Lenahan for chairperson.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Next matter will be for vice chairperson.
Chairman, I make a motion that Joseph Claremont continue as vice chairperson.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Any opposition? Hearing none. Moving along, matter for second vice chairman. I'll make a motion that we appoint Mr. Richard Lockhart.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Any opposition? Hearing none. Make a representation for our Northern Middlesex Council of Government.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead.
Make a motion that Jerry Frechette be our representative.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none. That's accepted. Next, we have representative for the Historic Board.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Member Richard Lockhart as our representative on the Historic Board.
And I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none. That is approved. And our last representative will be to the Green Building Commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to represent Stephen Gendron as our representative to the Green Building Commission.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none. That completes our elections. Thank you all. Moving along, we have notices from abutting towns. We all received a copy of those in our packet, and if you have any questions on any of those, if not, entertain a motion to place on file.
I'll make a motion that we place the notices from abutting towns on file.
Second.
Motion's made.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none, that's accepted. Moving along, we have our zoning board of appeal notices, and these are matters that are going to appear before the zoning board of appeals on September 27th, 2010, which will be held here in the City Hall Council Chambers. These matters come before us for recommendation only. The first matter is for a William Bomel. in Lorraine Beaumont, and the property is located at 166 Burnham Road. And this is for a variance to construct a side porch without the proper side yard setback pursuant to Section 5 of the zoning ordinance. It appears they want to add, they had a 4x4 porch with a 4x8 wraparound, and they want to cover it, I believe. Let me think. Access to the side door, we are only adding 4 feet to the length and they're adding a roof on the matter. It appears by the plan that they'd be 6.3 feet away from the side yard, and they need a minimum of 10 feet.
Some 25. Or is it
Yeah, 10 thumb for 25, so he would only have 6.3, and they need a minimum of 10 on that side. I'm not sure what the right side is, because it's not on the plan. Looks like it, because if that was 10, then the right side would need to be at least 15, which,
they can only make a judgment, so
right,
maybe we don't have enough information.
yeah. So basically, it looks like they're gonna put the porch in, wrap it around. It looks like he had 10.7 feet to begin with,
Zoning Board of Appeals.
and then now it's 6.3, so he's shot. I don't know what,
We don't know how much.
yeah, I mean, he's a minimum on that one side. I mean, the other side might be sufficient, because he was looking without proper side yard, so whether the other side's included or not, I don't know. So, I mean, it's obvious things like this, it's always nice to hear from the neighbor to the left who'll be affected the most,
That's right.
so. But, so it looks like you want to put a porch on with a roof. Yeah. Well, it looks like he has a little porch there now, but now he's gonna put the porch on with the roof. He wants a 4x8 porch with the roof, so now it looks, from the building, he's 10.7. If he puts the porch with the roof on, he'll be with 6.3 feet. And I'm not sure what the right side is, but he needs minimum 10 feet on one side and a total of 25, so he'd need to have at least a minimum of 15 on the other side, which you can't tell from the plan. I mean, 10.7 on one side, what the right side is,
Need at least
15, so. But he'd be a porch with the roof. If he has 6.3, he's off.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead,
I was
please.
going to say, I think something like this is highly dependent on how the neighbor to his left feels, I mean, it's going to be pretty close to the property, and looks like it's opening out right on toward his property. Not sure what the house next to him looks like. So I think it's going to be hard for us to take an action on this without further input. So I'd recommend we take no action pending further input.
And I think, on a lot,
We need better dimensions.
on a lot of these, a lot of times, you don't know how close that person is on his property line as well,
Right,
or what their
exactly,
objections are.
exactly.
Because say if he received the variance one time, or if he's minimum of 10 to the property line, or maybe he's further back and has no objection, so. All right, so is the motion to take no action on this matter at this point in time?
I'll second the
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye. Chair votes yes, no opposition. That matter of recommendation is no action at this time. Next matter is for a special permit telecommunication, and this is Clear Wireless LLC at 746 Bridge Street. This is to install 3 panel antennas and 2 Blackhall dishes inside the existing steeple, which will be partially replaced and replicated pursuant to section 7.6. So it looks like he's gonna put it in the same steeple and make the steeple, I think he's gonna change the exterior of it, what did it say, to make it, I think he said out of different material he was gonna make it out of. But at least it would be inside the church steeple. Yeah, okay, it's gonna be a fiberglass replica. So the existing steeple to be replaced with the fiberglass So it looks like he's gonna put the fiberglass steeple and just put it inside. Probably figures the fiberglass would probably weather better. I don't know how it affects the reception, but at least the main thing is they're inside the steeples and they don't have that visual effect of the neighborhood. Yeah, so it's the church out there. So at least it's inside, I mean, which is what we usually encourage if we can, to make it, you know, so it's, if it's existing, it's inside. I think he's gonna fix it up a little bit, be placed in, so hopefully the church would benefit somehow from the steeple, financially, hopefully.
Mr. Chairman, what I couldn't figure out here is if there's any equipment that would be housed outside of the church, or is it all going to be, is there any? Yeah. And this is a co-location, is that correct? This is a co-location?
I believe so.
It's a co-location, why do they need to
Well,
replace the steeple?
Let me take a look. I'm not sure if it's to install, it doesn't say in the application that it's,
There's a
unless it's in the narrative there, I forget.
Okay. Oh,
Whether it'll turn into that?
well, with other,
Probably.
Yeah, because at least something like that, we would encourage to be inside as a co-location,
right.
Yeah.
which would benefit if it be inside, so, yeah, to install 3-panel antennas.
Co-location, minimal impact.
Good.
Provide
And-
for co-location.
Yeah, it says to the existing steeple, yeah, so it's to put 3 in the existing steeple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Sure. Any comments or recommendations from the board? I mean, it says the associated equipment cabinets will be placed inside a room within the church, so other materials will be inside the church. So, I mean, on this, I don't have much of a problem with this, because I know that we encourage it to be in situations like that, where it's not visible from the street, and if it's gonna be the same height. So personally, I don't have a problem with it. I think that's kind of places we should encourage it to be,
Sure.
so. Saying that,
Yeah, with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, to approve the request.
motion made and second? Anyone second that matter? Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, Rich is going to abstain from the matter, so we have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposition? None, and 1 abstention by Rich. So moving along, the next matter is for Elizabeth Bolton on 28 Thorndyke Road to demolish an existing garage and replace it with a 2-story, 2-car garage pursuant to Section 4. So this is, appears they're looking at the rear yard. So they want to demo the existing garage and replace it with a 2-story, 2-car garage. Then it goes on and said, special, to extend a non-conforming storage by replacing detached garage with a 2-story without required side yard setback. Due to the location of the existing attached garage to be raised, there was no other location on the lot and where to build the new garage. Looking at the picture, I don't know why there's no other place to put it on the lot. I mean, They have the, looks like the existing garage is on an angle, and they want to square it off, but I don't know why they just can't push the garage back a little bit to meet the zoning. Because it's the rear yard.
It seems as though they could.
I mean, the rear yard is, it's 19, what they have with the garage is now, and they want to make it 15. And, you know, and this is going to be two-story, not just one-story.
Yeah, I have a, that's, for me, that's a bigger issue, is the second story. It looks like it's gonna be
And
creating an apartment up there or something.
Yeah, I mean,
they have a required height here of 16 feet on this sheet. And they've provided, they're proposing 24 and a half feet. But the zoning book says 35 feet.
yeah,
is
I mean,
Mr. Chairman, I mean, when I look at the variance,
So I don't
there has to be a
know.
hardship with the lot, and it doesn't appear to be a hardship with
yeah,
the
I don't,
lot.
yeah, no,
There's plenty of space, and what would the
I mean-
Yeah,
hardship
there's
be
plenty of space for it.
to request a second story? Again, there's no hardship there as well, so, again, if I'm looking at a hardship, there appears to be plenty of room to locate that, so you wouldn't have a setback issue. And what would possibly be the hardship for a second story is,
I know, it seems like there's enough room on the lot to make it conforming.
right,
So-
right, exactly.
So I don't, no, I'm not sure what the explanation of that is, you know, it's up in the narrative. By reading it, it was due to the location of the existing attached garage to be raised, there's no other location to put it, and
That's-
so I don't know.
Correct.
I mean, because in front of that garage there now is basically the driveway. And so they could pull that up and over a little bit, and it'd still be conforming. Because the house itself, I mean, which is already existing, but they're shot on the right side yard itself, but that's not before us, but.
Oh, the height wouldn't be conforming. There's a lot dimensions.
I make it, it's, when you get in within the side yard and the rear yard setback, it's more intrusive when it's two stories as well as one. You know, 'cause a lot of times people might put a fence up, you don't notice it as much, and I believe there's a fence on this lot, but when you go to the second story, usually the fences don't, by the zoning code, cover the second story as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite understood why it can't fit. It says it in the narrative it can't, but I don't understand why, so.
Mr. Chairman, there is no, my opinion, but there's no foundation for requesting a variance for the height, and based on that, I would recommend denial.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, any opposition? Hearing none. Next matter moving along is for a special permit, and this is McDonald's Corporation on 66 Plain Street. This is to construct a double-lane drive-through to replace an existing drive-through which was constructed before applicable ordinance was in effect. The section to Article 12, Section 12. So it looks like they want to put a new drive-through through with, and looks like they're doing some renovation down there, and basically, looks like they just want to update the site, and as a result, they have to put a new drive-through in.
The double lanes there.
Yeah.
Speaker box.
My reaction to this was, first of all, I want to put in a double lane drive-through. We've never seen one of those. And what that means to traffic flow here, and particularly the safety, pedestrian safety, it's not clear to me through the documentation what they mean and what effect it will have on this plan view of the site.
Okay, here on this.
Really all we have to go by.
Twice as many cheeseburgers.
I mean, it looks like it's in further enough off the street, but,
Yeah, it's way in there.
yeah, because, you know, it's going all the way in, so it looks like they're not gonna have much of the queuing problem.
No, no, it's 2 lanes especially.
Right, but. Now, anybody from planning development have any comments on this? I'll look at it. I know they're doing it over, and will it help matters or make it a little worse? I mean, because it goes all the way back behind. I mean,
Yeah, we've had a chance to review it a little bit with the applicant. Basically, I mean, you're right, they're reworking the parking lot, they're just rebuilding the parking lot, and while they're doing that, they're actually rebuilding McDonald's itself on its footprint. It's gonna just be a different look, updated look. They're not expanding the building itself, but as part of that kind of rehab and general upkeep of the site, they'd like to add a second lane to the drive-through. What it does is it adds a second approach and place to order, and then it kind of merges back in as you pick it up on the way out. It doesn't seem that the throughput issue from what they told us is that it's at the ordering the food, look, that's where it slows down the throughput. It's not in picking it up or paying for it, because they have the 2 window situation. You pay for one window, pick it up the second.
Right.
So the kind of, the log jam is at the menu. So that's what the second lane is trying to solve. And so that'll increase the throughput a little bit.
yeah, I did see that in the narrative. It says people spend more time looking at the menu board
Which is
and holds up the traffic.
Correct. Yeah. It should add a little bit more capacity too, than just a single lane.
Because that is an old McDonald's.
Sorry?
That is an old McDonald's.
It is, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're modernizing it, I guess.
It wasn't too long ago down the street where they updated the Burger King.
Right. So,
Does traffic department have any comments on this? I mean, that's probably one of our main concerns is how it would affect the flow. I mean, so, yeah, I don't know if they had a chance to see that or make a
not as
comment.
of yet. There was nothing that jumped out at us that it would be a problem in terms of it adding traffic impact, more traffic to the site. If anything, it adds a little bit more capacity. If there's a problem with cars queuing up on the street, on Plain Street, it would help with that. I've never seen or heard of any issues with that.
It looks like it's found
Usually,
back.
yeah, usually that's a concern with Dunkin' Donuts, but places like McDonald's, it's not quite an issue. But the only problem that could conceivably happen is the merging from the 2 lane to the 1. But that's the thing that we'll have to look at, and is a good point, is what that does to safety for the pedestrians walking from their car who are actually going to go inside to dine, and how that impacts that. But looking at it, I don't recall that jumping out as a problem.
Mr. Chairman, I personally would love to hear testimony from the applicant as
I'd like to see
the theory behind all of this.
2 of them order, and one goes ahead of the other. They get the other person's order. I mean, there got to be some mechanism there that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Say if they don't come in sequence, is what I'm thinking. You have 2 orders.
Who gets to go first?
I order A, you order B, then I get B, and you get A, when it goes to the window to pick up. There's only one pickup window, right? So, I don't know. I'm sure they put that thought behind it
I'd
somehow.
like to see more too, because we've never done this before, and it
Right.
is kind of precedent setting.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Let's be very careful with
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I would recommend that we don't give any sort of a finding or recommendation based on the limited information we have before us.
Okay, so motion, no recommendation at this time.
Second motion.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye. Chair says yes. Any opposition? No. Moving along on the agenda, any general correspondences from board members or from Division of Plan and Development? And I'll start with you. Any updates?
The only thing I did want to point out, I mentioned earlier, but we did drop off the zoning board of appeals items for the next meeting.
We have here, okay, okay.
Yeah, so I think what happened last time is we didn't since you weren't here, we forgot to mail it to you, so apologize for that. We'll make sure Joe gets them next week. or
Is this
2
the
weeks.
fullest sign package for the future?
Yeah, so what's on the agenda is gonna be a sign package from Valley Properties for some of the internally illuminated signs, the wall signs, and then pylon sign for Walgreens. So, it's the same ones that I believe were presented to the planning board the last meeting.
Okay.
Except what you'll see in that package are some actual elevations of the Blockbuster and the Sal's
Okay.
Pizza.
So those are coming in under the ZBA notices for next?
Yeah, for the next meeting, yeah.
Okay, well, I already separated those, okay, yeah. So basically, those, we saw most of those and asked the questions on what we had for those last time.
Right.
Okay.
I don't think anything's changed on that at all.
Nothing's changed since what we saw, so.
No, it's just a little bit more information.
And basically, we acted in favor of that with a recommendation to work with
Yeah, in
Division of
fact,
Planning and Development.
there is an update on that. The Walgreens signs, if you recall, we talked a little bit about the channel letters, the return color on the Walgreens wall signs to be black or darker color. They're using, can't remember the exact term, but it's a dark bronze, and apparently it appears as a black color. So that'll work, I think, to reduce the depth or the appearance of the depth on those channel letters. So it kind of fits with what the board was looking for. So that's it on that.
Okay, any board members have any correspondence updates? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made and
Second?
second. All in favor, say aye. Chair votes yes.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Good night, and thank you, everyone.
Good to move.